It's December 3rd, JLD here, and welcome to MSTR Today in the Treasury Titans. Nothing in this video is financial advice, but we are back around 93,000. Life is feeling pretty good. We'll see what the week brings, but man, I know Michael Saylor's hard at work. And Adam brings a little positivity with BlackRock capitulates to Bitcoin. Vanguard capitulates to Bitcoin. Now they're offering iBits. Bank of America recommending 4% crypto allocation. Pro-Bitcoin SEC. Pro-Bitcoin Fed chair is on the way. Pro-Bitcoin Commerce Secretary. Pro-Bitcoin Treasury Secretary. Pro-Bitcoin President. New Bitcoin derivative products every week. JP Morgan accepting Bitcoin as collateral from institutions. JP Morgan launching a Bitcoin bond product. It's obvious. Don't take your eye off the ball. And Rohan says the most requested chart is finally live. MSTR's MNAV since the beginning of their Bitcoin treasury strategy. It shows the market cap versus Bitcoin holdings with a whole new layer of context. And here you have when they were spiking above 7x back in September of 2020. And then, of course, they kind of chopped all the way back down into the ones, and we're actually spending a decent amount of time below 1 MNAV for a while here in 22, 23 time frame. And then, of course, had their little spike up. Then it's been just a long, painful drawdown back to right around 1 MNAV. And guess what? The pendulum will swing back the other way. When? I have no idea. But with a 10-year time horizon, I'll be in. Stack Hodler says Bitcoin still well below some key support levels, but risk reward looks significantly better here than at 90K with a 26 cycle index than it did at 124K with a 67 cycle index, especially now that Vanguard floodgates are open. Double bottom in, and I'm going to say yes. Please, yes. 100% strategy says boomers are now bashing people who go all in on Bitcoin because they believe in Bitcoin. Now I have Bitcoiners and boomers bashing me for going all in on MSTR because I believe in Bitcoin so much that I need more Bitcoin. Amplified Bitcoin is for Bitcoin bulls. However, there's only one correct amplified Bitcoin product, MSTR. You want to bet on the entity that will have a monopoly on digital capital and digital credits. It's not Metaplanet, Strive, or 21. Strategy is the entity. MSTR will outperform Bitcoin competitors and Peter Schiff. It is written, says 100% strategy. Chris says, as an investor, you must be willing to stand alone in your thesis because there are going to be periods when you think you're right and everyone else thinks you're wrong. And by the way, in the comment section, this is a period where a lot of people think that we are wrong right now. You can tell they're coming to what they think dance on our graves. Well, I think we know what's happening. It's just a matter of time. Adrian says, attention all MSTR fudders. Establishing a cash reserve to pay dividends shows the strategy can adapt. Saylor has shown that he can adapt. Them having the ability to change their approach is a sign of intelligent management, not a failing model, not a Ponzi. If you don't like what they are doing or don't get it, that's cool. But the narrative flying around are intellectually lazy and read more like engagement farming or sour grapes and actual analysis. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And again, he posted this as a reply to Michael Saylor's 2013 post about Bitcoin's days being numbered. What did Michael Saylor do? He changed his thesis. He adapted, just like he's continuing to do with strategy every single day. QT ended 2 days ago, by the way. Ben Workman wants us to know. And this is a reminder from BitPain that this entire bull market has occurred in a vastly different liquidity environment than the prior bull markets, because we've been in QT this whole time, and now we're switching to non-QT and potentially coming up to QE. 100% strategy says amplified Bitcoin is greater than Bitcoin. It's like sitting on real estate without monetizing it. Strategy is monetizing Bitcoin. So if you just have Bitcoin, it's like sitting on real estate without monetizing it. And guess what? That's fine. I love Bitcoin. I hold Bitcoin. I will always hold Bitcoin. It's like the most pristine oceanfront property in the world. It's without having to pay taxes on it, by the way, which makes it even better. It's just going to appreciate. But strategy is like monetizing that property, like basically renting it out for $1 million a month. That's even better than just holding that property, I think. Ben says, long leverage gets flushed from Binance exploits. Bitcoin has a 30% plus drawdown, almost 40% actually. MSTR FUD amplifies all over the place. We've seen that more than most. Banks start marketing structured Bitcoin notes. Vanguard opens Bitcoin ETF access. QT ends. Now, I don't know if you believe in coincidences or not, but wow, what timing TradFi has. And Zink says, everyone is getting it wrong about why MSTR is underperforming. Strategy has taken a lot of slack this year for what has been a disappointing 12 months for Bitcoin price action. Many analysts in the space have been trying to come up with answers for why MSTR is underperforming, but seemingly ignore the most important factor: sentiment and price momentum for Bitcoin itself. It's important to understand that while MSTR has had a bad year performance-wise, the NAV floor has risen dramatically, and thus share price when MNAV equals 1. MNAV compression and expansion below or below 1 is wholly dependent on the presence of speculators. When speculators think Bitcoin is going to the moon, MNAV will expand. That will be the pendulum swinging the other way. When speculators think Bitcoin isn't going to the moon, MNAV will contract. I believe this can be shown by looking at the price action for Bitcoin and MSTR in 15 days after Trump became president. Some key numbers here. On November 5th, 2024, Bitcoin started the day at 67,811 and traded up to 95,000 on November 20th. That's a 40% increase in 15 days. On November 5th, 2024, MSTR opened at $233 and closed at its highest price of $473 on November 20th, 2024. That's a 103% increase in 15 days. We have not come close to this price momentum for Bitcoin to the upside since then. I believe for MSTR to have another massive run up, it needs to be triggered by a similar move upwards in the Bitcoin price. This is further corroborated by Bitcoin price action when denominated in gold. And then he goes on to show what that looks like. But basically, Bitcoin is under its inflation adjusted high of 2021, which is insane. I'm going to say that one more time. Bitcoin is under its inflation adjusted high of 2021. When we see sentiment return and significant price momentum for Bitcoin to the upside, MSTR will follow like clockwork. All we need is one thing: patience. Patience, patience, patience. Jeff Walton's post is, what is the value of a company? 1, holding $60 billion. 2, growing at 70% a year. 3, providing novel products to a total addressable market in the hundreds of trillions. And 4, with a 12x moat compared to the next closest company. Probably higher than 53 billion. And as the Bitcoin therapist says, it's in the trillions. And I tend to agree. And we have a great Fong Lee segment. This guy is just really getting out there and dropping some value bombs. You're going to want to listen to this. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Michael Saylor just made an $835 million bet buying the Bitcoin dip. Right now, Bitcoin's fallen almost 40% off its October high, and the big money is buying the dip. What's your strategy? Now might be a great time to convert your IRA or 401k to Bitcoin with the help of Bit IRA. Plus, you can fund it with pre-tax funds, then continue to invest it over time as you do any other retirement accounts. Bit IRA protects your assets with end-to-end insurance, highly secure storage, multi-encryption, and registered with the U.S. government. Your IRA is fully IRS compliant. Best of all, you can trade crypto within your retirement account without incurring taxes on any buys or sells. Just go to bitira.com/JLD and request a free info guide. Once you do that and open your IRA, you'll get a free ledger. Bitcoin has proven time and time again to rebound, every cycle going from a higher low to a higher high. With Strategy's latest purchase, Michael Saylor clearly believes Bitcoin is at a discount. Time for you to get in too. Go to bitira.com/JLD to open a tax-sheltered IRA in Bitcoin. When you're ready to build your complete business identity, you want to do it fast and right. With Northwest Registered Agent, you can build your business identity in just 10 clicks in 10 minutes. When you want more, start your business with Northwest. Everything you need to launch and protect your business all in one place. Your business identity isn't just your logo or website, it's everything that represents you. From what customers see to what they don't: legal filings, state licenses, secure domains, and compliance tools. Northwest gives you more privacy, more tools, and more guidance so you can focus on growing your dream. For nearly 30 years, Northwest has helped entrepreneurs like us build confidently. You can form your business for just $39 plus state fees, backed by real corporate guides, people who know your state's laws and have your back every step of the way. Don't wait. Protect your privacy, build your brand, and get your complete business identity in just 10 clicks in 10 minutes. Visit www.northwestregisteredagent.com/paidJLD and start building something amazing. Get more with Northwest Registered Agent at www.northwestregisteredagent.com/paidJLD.
Now Strategy has set up a dollar reserve. So my first question is, why buy ice cubes? Well, we have long-term strategy, which is to buy and hold Bitcoin. It's our primary treasury reserve asset. And we have short-term dollar obligations that are created because of the dividends we have on our preferred notes. And we want to maintain and create more Bitcoin yield, Bitcoin per share. And we really don't want to have to utilize that Bitcoin at times when our equity value goes below 1x MNAV. So we said, well, if we want to really create a bulletproof balance sheet, let's have the global reserve digital asset, which is Bitcoin for the long term, and the global reserve digital currency for the short term. And so that's why I created a US dollar reserve to pay down our dividends in the short term in case that we need it. And we thought that just makes our balance sheet even stronger than it has been in the past.
Well, we certainly understand needing to pay back the debt. That certainly makes sense. But on the dividend, why are you so committed to paying this dividend? Would you ever consider suspending it? Companies do suspend dividends from time to time.
Yeah, companies do suspend the dividend, but it creates fear, uncertainty, doubt in our preferred shareholders, which will impact our convertible shareholders, which will impact our equity shareholders. So I think preserving the payment of the dividend, even if our board has the rights to suspend it, it's the right thing for the short term, for the next 1, 2, 3 years, and it's important. It's also important for the Bitcoin asset class, and we realize we play a role bigger than just strategy in the Bitcoin world.
So would you say investors should think you will never suspend that dividend?
Never say never, Jim. But yeah, our objective is to pay the dividend into perpetuity.
I hear what you're saying, and you described that cascade, the daisy chain here when it comes to all the different equity and debt holders. I am curious. You said last week that selling Bitcoin would be a quote last resort. How should we think about how you would prioritize dividend payments versus tapping that last resort of potentially selling some of your Bitcoin holdings?
Yeah, what we did in the last couple of weeks was to address, I think, some of the misconceptions around strategy, and I do think some of the price action in Bitcoin could have been related to the concerns around our company. Here's misconception number one: we're highly levered. We're 12% leverage. If you add in our preferreds, is 27% leverage. A typical company that's public in the US has 60 to 80% leverage. A highly levered company is 2 to 3x, 200 to 300x leverage. We're not even close to those levels. That was misconception number one. Misconception number two is that we're not able to pay down our dividends using our balance sheet. And I get the concern around our ability to issue equity. Look, in 8.5 days, we issued $1.44 billion of equity. In 8.5 days, we issued a net equity to cover 21 months. And then on the back end of that, we have 74 years of dividends in our Bitcoin. So we've addressed sort of this sort of concern around us selling Bitcoin. Now, if we are able to grow our cash dividends, cash reserve, to call it 2 or 3 years of dividends, we're really talking about the end of 2028, right. January 2029, where we might have to consider, do we have to sell Bitcoin? We would if we had to pay our dividends, but realistically, I don't think we're going to be in that situation now that we've built up the cash reserve.
Well, Phong, you talk about growing the cash reserves that you've built out. Is this something that you plan to maintain forever in perpetuity, or is this just something to get you through this period where the broader market is under pressure?
I think we'll try to maintain a 2 to 3 year cash reserve equal to 2 to 3 years of our dividends, which will grow as we issue more preferreds. And it is something that I think we'll do for the next 5-10 years, and we'll reassess it.
The MNAV, how do you get that back up? How do you get that higher?
We had the same thing happen. Some folks have been in our securities for the last year. Some have been in it the last 5 years. Some have been in it for 30 years. Those who've been in it for 5 years have seen this happen before, right? And during crypto winter in 2022, our MNAV compressed to similar levels. And everyone thought that was the end of strategy. Everybody thought it was the end of Bitcoin. And you've seen it expand to 2 to 3x. I think there's a big misconception about what we are as a company. Right. People think that we're a closed-ended fund, we're an ETF, and therefore we should trade at 1x MNAV. The MSCI thinks we're a closed-ended fund and we're an ETF, therefore we shouldn't be potentially shouldn't be, part of their indices. We're not. We're an operating company.
Right.
We're an operating company, a fully integrated, vertically integrated Bitcoin operating company. The only thing we don't do is we don't mine Bitcoin, but we buy Bitcoin, we issue securities, we create products, and we create operating income. And we have employees, we have staff, we have finance people, we have attorneys, we have engineers. Like, we're a fully operational Bitcoin treasury company. And
Right.
so in that case, we should trade at some premium equal to the ability for us to grow our treasury and our operating income over time.
Yeah, go ahead, Katie.
I was just going to ask, you mentioned there's this misconception about what strategy is, what the company actually is. And it's interesting to hear you say that, because you think about what MSCI is asking right now. In mid-October, it said basically that digital asset treasury companies maybe more closely resemble investment funds rather than traditional companies. Investment funds, of course, aren't allowed in their indices, and they proposed actually excluding DATs from their indices. So to that point, have you engaged with MSCI on that, what strategy actually is?
We're beginning the education process, and a lot of our supporters and others in the industry have too. And I don't think this is really a topic for significant debate, either from an optics or a legal perspective. We're an operating company, right? If you want a fund, go buy IBIT, which is a great option. Go buy underlying Bitcoin. That's not what we purport to be, not what we look like, how we operate at all. And so I think there's an education process. I also don't think it's a great idea to pick and choose winners and losers, right? There are many other operating companies that capitalize on assets like oil or gold or airplanes or hotels. And to tell an industry that your asset doesn't count, right? That if you have more than 50% of your assets in any particular asset, Bitcoin, versus more than 50% of your assets in hotels, it just seems like someone's picking winners and losers out there, and that's not really what indices should be doing.
Fong, to switch gears just a little bit in terms of other types of businesses that strategy could be involved with, lending of Bitcoin, it reached a record high in the third quarter. Why hasn't strategy gotten involved?
Yeah, we run a very simple business, right? I've been doing this for 10 years now, 5 years with Bitcoin. We buy and we hold Bitcoin. I do think over the course of the next year, and I'm quite excited about it, traditional finance entering the Bitcoin world. Companies have made announcements, Citibank, Morgan Stanley, and others, big real banks are going to offer custody service, lending service, and staking and otherwise. I think when they enter that space and we have different counterparties, it's something we would consider, and I think would be enthusiastic about.
Well, to that point, Fong, have you held any preliminary talks with lending platforms or other potential partners to handle those logistics?
We've had a lot of constructive discussions. They've primarily been of the, hey, we're thinking about offering Bitcoin services, custody, exchange, lending, et cetera. You're the largest corporate holder of Bitcoin in the world. What's your advice to us? And can we work together? And to the extent they're large, U.S.-based banks that have a lot of history and a strong balance sheet, we're very excited to partner with them.
What's the second best? There is no second best.